Hey, bedroom bangers. It is Wabbit. I hope you're doing well. I've never left. For those of you who know, in due time there will be a story, but for right now, it's about having fun. And it's breaking down something that I did a jam with the Polyend Play Plus and the iPad. This video is really geared for people who are new to the space. So if you're a veteran, you've got an established workflow, there may not be a lot of value in this for you. You probably have something that you like. Maybe there's something that you see here that is a trigger. So feel free to click away. And also, I'm not here asking for you to subscribe or like. I'm just sharing something that I enjoy. I'll get into some discussion parts towards the end of the video, but let me focus on, what's going on, the gear, how things are connected, and why I'm doing what I'm doing. And again, later I will talk about, there are many ways to do things. So the gear is the Polyend Play Plus. It's the iPad. There's a dongle behind this, and then the Zoom Live Track L6. And essentially what I'm trying to do is take audio from this device, run it into the iPad, because I can take advantage of apps on here that essentially are like virtual hardware pedals, delays, reverbs, etc. And then I want to get the signal that has been processed by the effects out into my interface, which again is a Zoom L6. And I want that to go into the camera that's above, that's recording this, the iPhone 11, as I create content here on YouTube. So that's the very high level. There are a couple key things that really make this work. I mentioned the dongle, or actually let me back up. It really starts with the operating system on iOS. I'll get into something a little bit later on. iOS 26 is a key component. The other is the dongle that is behind, I don't think it's in shot of this video. And what that allows me to do is connect the Zoom Live Track L6. It allows me to connect the Polyend Play Plus. I'm running power into that, so it's providing power to this and the iPad, and that dongle end is coming into the iPad. So those are the connections. Now, in terms of the Zoom Live Track L6, I'm not going to go over everything that's on here because I have it set up for a bunch of stuff. But for this video, I have a mic plugged in so you can hear me. And then I've got, again, the L6, the USB out going to the dongle. And then I've got the master outs going up into the camera using a Sonos line adapter that allows me to do what I'm doing. Now, the Polyend Play Plus allows me to send audio over USB. I'll come back to this part later in the video, but essentially this is providing the sound. I just basically created a pattern on here, pick some samples, and that's it. I hit play on here, and I get the sounds that come out of here. And then through routing, let me kind of talk about why it's important with iOS 26. So in the old days, this would not be possible. iPad would just see whatever is the latest interface that is plugged in. It was called the order of operations. Now with iOS 26, and again, I want to keep this super, super high level, I have the option to now pick. So what I've done is this is AUM, this app here. It's essentially a mixer app. Again, very high level. You may hear other people calling it differently. Everybody's got an opinion, as we know. But I look at this as a mixer app. It allows me to route and allows me to host applications all within one app. So I've got an audio track here. And what I've done is I can select a bunch of things in this little menu that I just popped up. But on the hardware input, this sees the Polyend Play Plus. In this particular case, it has 28 mono inputs or 14 stereos. So all I've done is selected 1 and 2, which are the master, mix out, stereo out, whatever you want to call it. So I'm bringing that signal in through here. And then I just have 3 effects apps. Now, actually, the last one is a limiter, just something that I've learned along the way. But I've got a filter step app, and then I've got something to add a little low end to the mix. And then this is where iOS 26 comes into play. I can go into my settings and select a different output. That's what's unique. So again, prior to iOS 26, I couldn't use this configuration. So here, I can actually select the Zoom L6. So again, audio coming from here, through the cable, it's going through that dongle, picked up here, goes through the effects, comes back out to the Zoom L6, that USB-C cable here, and then the audio is coming out of the master outs, as I was saying earlier. That is the signal flow. And again, I can use advantage of these effects apps. So let me bypass just the top two, the Filter Step app and it's called the Bass app. So this is the dry signal. And then I'm going to engage, the very first app will be that Filter Step app. You should be able to hear what's happening. And then I'll engage the Bass app, or a little bit of low end. And that, at a high level, is essentially it. Okay, so let me talk about a couple of things that generally you start getting questions when you do this. First and foremost, none of this stuff here is needed. You can, on your own, just play with this device by itself. Please understand, as someone who's a content creator, that a lot of these things are what I need to do what I need, especially the interface, getting it to the camera. But you can just sit here alone with this device, a pair of headphones. You do need something to power this. Does not have an internal battery, and jam away. It's as simple as that. If you have hardware pedals, maybe you're not into this, then you just take the audio out. Now, the one advantage, and I've already alluded to this, that this has with USB Type-C is I can track out each individual track. So remember I mentioned there were a bunch of tracks on here. Without going into this video, each of these correlate to not only the mix out, the stereo out, but also the individual tracks. There's also synth engines on here. That's on another part, so you can actually do that. And then I think there's also ones for, again, I'm not going to, get more into the weeds, but the point is USB-C audio allows me, if I wanted to, because all I did was I picked the stereo channel. So I put an effect on everything. Now, that may not be what you want to do. So again, you can get granular. Maybe you don't want to put anything on your percussion. You only want it on the synth elements. And then you can do that. You don't have a ton of effects on this device. I mean, this is a great perform pad. Don't get me wrong. I use that in some of the video, and this is awesome. But if you want, more effects than what this thing offers, that's where this comes in. And that's why I like using the USB audio. And again, based on what I want to do, the iOS operating system allows me to do that. The iPad, that's something I've been using long before I got into this space. I didn't go out and buy the iPad for this reason. So again, if you're a hardware person and you prefer pedals, you have no interest, absolutely, you can do that. You're just going to have to figure out your connections, but understand if you're bringing the audio out of the headphones, which you would have to do in your case, you don't have that granular control. You can't do that over the stereo out. It's only over the USB. I don't mess with DAWs a lot, even though I have some. I would think the same should be able to work with a DAW. Again, based on what I recall and looking at the manual, maybe in the past I've hooked it up to the Mac and Ableton, but that is not my preferred method of getting down. It's going to be something like this. So again, that's just kind of how I got this set up. It's really a lot of fun. It gives you the ability to kind of throw some spices on it. This is something you can sit down on the couch, again, provided you've got a way to power it on, some headphones, and do everything right in here. You do have to load your samples on there. It does come with samples. You cannot bring audio into this device. It's basically meant, as it says here, to play and, I believe, have a lot of fun. And then if you want to do additional things, you've got that option as well too, especially if you've got an iPad. And that's why I also do these videos, because many have an iPad, and sometimes it's one of those things where it's like, oh, I didn't know you could do that. I'm not encouraging you. Trust me, this is people talk about Eurorack being a rabbit hole, and maybe even pedals. iOS apps, that's also a rabbit hole too, but that's for another conversation. So I'm not here trying to encourage you to buy anything or get anything. I'm just sharing with you a method. And if it's interesting, then, dip your toes in and see what you can do. But it's a lot of fun. I will end on this. Clearly, as you can tell by the size of this channel, no one sent me anything. I've been doing this for about 6-7 years in this space, but really several years with the Polyend devices. And I say this because the noise out there, you're going to hear a lot of it. Again, I'm speaking to someone who's new into this space. My suggestion, ignore that. There are people who, as you start to spend time in this space, they're going to speak badly of products or companies. And Polyend is no different. And let me be honest, I was one in the past because I was listening to the noise. I learned my lesson. I'm a fan. I have the Tracker Plus and I have the Polyend Synth, and I enjoy playing with them. They are fun devices. And trust me, I was someone that, scoffed at the idea of using a tracker. Oh, it's an Excel spreadsheet. And these are some of my favorite devices. So I encourage you to go in it with an open mind, limit the noise of what you intake. It's good to look at reviews. There's great tutorials out there. If you're not sure how to, because I'll be honest with you, when I first got to play, I struggled with it. I did. But now, to me, it's a piece of cake. But, take your time, learn your device, play around, get some noise. But seriously, when people are talking bad about gear, just don't listen to them. They may have their reasons. They have their right to give their opinion. Nobody's questioning that. But it's about having fun. And I really want to, in addition to sharing what I do, that is something that I feel super important to also, put that message out that it's about having fun. And that's what I want to keep you focused on, is having fun. So no matter, if you're trying to make songs, or if you're just like myself, in your space, just kind of having some fun, banging out some noise, then do that, because you can with a device like this or any device out there. I thank you for your time. I hope this finds you well, and I hope to catch you in the video. Until then, keep jamming.